Look, we just had and we'll announce this tomorrow. Okay, so we just had a guest on, a very big time college football guest, and we had this conversation with him. Joe, do I believe that stars matter? Mainly, yes, because there's a reason that Georgia, there's a reason that Bama, there's a reason that Florida State and other teams, there's a reason they're all winning. There's a reason why Michigan and Ohio State win. They recruit at a high level. USC is losing way too many dudes way too quickly. Damani Jackson, okay, the former 5-star corner, hits the portal. Tackett Curtis, former 5-star linebacker, just entered the portal. Fabian Ross enters the portal. Malachi Nelson, the big-time 5-star quarterback, has entered the portal. What is going on at USC?
First of all, I was attacked last signing day last year because I made the statement that I thought that Lincoln Riley's recruiting class was underwhelming. USC fans were so upset with me making that statement. And not only was it overrated and it was underwhelming, the class that they had in 2023, but most of your top players have decided to already jump ship. Most of these kids are leaving. Look, Blake, there's two ways that I see that this plays out. One, Lincoln Riley.
Don't steal my take.
Wait. Lincoln Riley is going to take the Chargers job, and he is mailing it in, and he's putting in minimal effort because they called him, and they're interested in him. The second is if that reality doesn't come to fruition, because frankly, the NFL should not be attracted to him as a head coach, maybe as an offensive coordinator after he gets fired next year in the middle of the season. I am calling it right now. We saw this happen with Jimbo Fisher, and we're talking about it right now with Billy Napier. We can find a lot of similarities to what just happened with Jimbo and what is happening right now with this USC roster. The future of the quarterback position, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the past couple of years, in Malachi Nelson, is leaving. The quarterback room looks like shit right now, and they don't have a 2024 guy currently.
Well, they're about to get Will Howard.
Does that put them in the national championship conversation? Because it sure the hell does not. I think that they win 7 games again, and he is gone. He's done. They're going to fire him.
I don't know about that. They'd owe him a lot of money. They'd have to Jimbo him. And from
Blake, Blake, if you recall though, last offseason in about May,
USC is not A&M.
I said that they were going to fire Jimbo in the middle of the season, and he got fired.
Yeah, but this isn't A&M though. USC didn't want to pay the Clay Helton buyout, and they were so cheap in doing it, they let him come back another year. That's a completely different scenario.
I don't think it's completely different. I think if they wanted to find the money, they could.
Because there's nobody at USC right now. Look, I don't mean this in a wrong way. LA is not the LA that we remember. It's not the town. It's not the city. It's not the place like it used to be under Pete Carroll. But I got to start asking questions in reference to, number one, if it was just one side of the football, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe these kids were really loyal to Alex Grinch and they're leaving, and that's a reason. But, Joe, you have Georgia hiring the current but now former USC DB coach. How many of those kids are about to go with him to Georgia across country? How many of those kids are going to commit to the University of Georgia? Losing a guy like Malachi Nelson and replace, I guess, the replacement of Caleb Williams, you're going to tell me it's Will Howard. Dude, I don't like
it's a joke. It's a joke. That's the best that we can do. You're supposed to be this brilliant offensive mind. You should be able to attract.
I will say this though. What is he? Because look, you could say whatever you want about Lincoln Riley. Now I'm going to defend him a little bit here. You ready? The dude knows quarterback play. The dude knows offense. What does he see in Will Howard that maybe you and I do not see?
The cheapest option?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about on the field.
Yeah, I think this is the cheapest option for him. He doesn't want to pay the price for any of the top quality guys.
So I said that I thought in the guest segment that we had and we recorded earlier, this smells, I agree with you on one massive thing. This does smell as if that he could be going to the Chargers. And to be honest with you, Joe, I don't know if it's not a bad fit for him because he doesn't like to recruit at a high level. Okay, he can have a GM, which the Chargers fired their GM too, that can put the talent and put the pieces together. All he's got to do out there and coach, that might be what he wants to do. And he might have better success at doing that.
I also think that if he's, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic in saying that he doesn't belong in the NFL. He is a bright offensive mind, and I agree with what you're saying.
He's a hell of an offensive mind.
Yes, I agree with that sentiment of what you're talking about here, because if he's smart and he's seeing everything that's going on right now, he's using his agent to figure out how does he take the Chargers job, because he gets to not have to move. He doesn't have to travel as far to get to the stadium. Maybe he has to forego the helicopter rides that he was given, or whatever the hell that was, in that whole joke. But that's really the smartest move for him right now, because we're so far into the portal cycle. Signing day is right around the corner. Their recruiting class is ranked 18th. And again, I say this all the time when we bring up these ranking numbers. People like to say, like, oh, the star ratings are not reflective of how the coaching staff evaluates the players. Whatever. That class that they have right now is good, but not up to the standard of what they need to be good in the Big Ten in their first year. If he is smart, and I think he is smart, he's jumping to the NFL. I completely agree with you. It has to be. It's the only thing that makes sense, because who has he brought in the portal? He's done nothing over the past 2 weeks since this has happened.
Well, I mean, so look, they do have 4 commits from the portal. They did go get a deep snapper, which I'm sure that you love. I do think that the Nate Clifton kid from Vandy is actually a pretty decent pickup. I mean, the kid had 5.5 sacks at Vandy, so which really is probably like 8.5 sacks anywhere else in the country. He had like 7.5 tackles for loss. They get the Arnold kids from Oregon State. They have built a little bit defensively. I mean, they do get some pieces, but we got a long way to go before. And look, I like Tackett Curtis, the kids from Louisiana. They upgraded at linebacker with Tackett out and the Easton Arnold kid in. Like, they upgraded a position there without question from Oregon State. I just don't know how good they're going to be, man. I think that it's not looking good for USC at all. You can't lose that many high-profile, high-caliber, high-talent players and think that it's not a problem. It's one thing if – we talked about this last night. It's one thing if Georgia does it, but Georgia's bringing in the number 1 class every single year, so they can sustain losing guys. And by the way, who's to say that Damani Jackson doesn't go with his DB coach, doesn't go to Georgia?
Right.
Then what? Okay, so there comes a point where you just can't lose those dudes.
And to that point, Georgia has 5 years of recruiting, that there is a buildup of talent, that they're not really worried, like we talked about. But the biggest thing, and I said this when we did the interview that's going to be published tomorrow during the day, and you kind of alluded to this, with the new defensive coordinator coming in, I would have expected roster turnover. But to see 3 receivers and your eventual long-term plan at quarterback all hop in the portal, and the possibility of more hopping in the portal, that signals to me that there's something going on here. And I'm not like trying to be, insidious with what I'm saying here.
The NIL collective's not paying what they told kids they pay them?
That's not what I'm getting at, because I don't have any sourcing, and I think that making an erroneous statement like that can be, it can be a very messed up thing to do. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But there clearly has to be some level of disconnect. And when we see this happening, it usually means that there's a disconnect between the head coach and the players. Like, I don't know about you, but in college, I was in a locker room with a coach that at one point that we thought that he was going to get fired or might have left or whatnot. And the dynamic is weird. The dynamic is really weird. And this was pre-transfer portal. So in any opportunity where they feel like the dynamic's not good, guys are going to find ways to leave, especially if they're not from the area. Maybe they sense that their coach is on the way out and he's going to the NFL.
Why do I feel like, last thing for me, I feel like they're about to get waxed in the Big Ten?
Oh, they will. They're not built up front to. Their defense might be, because their defensive coordinator is great and he's physical. They're physical, but their offensive line's not built to go up against these defensive lines.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. All right.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.